Welcome to a class entitled Canning Your Garden, and welcome to my food pantry. I am surrounded by jars, mason jars, filled with my garden vegetables that I have enjoyed canning myself. You can see that I'm an avid canner. I store overflow that exceeds the 300 jar limit that I have in the shelving that I have built myself. Now, why would you consider canning in this present day and age? Why would you consider growing a garden? Well, let me present to you some reasons, some motivations for growing a garden and canning your garden. First of all, it is very convenient. When you need it, you have the food. But you may say, well, if I need food, I can go to the store. I can buy cans of food there. I can buy fresh vegetables there. Well, do you remember just a month and a half ago, during the beginning of the COVID-19 pandemic, when the shelves at our stores were all empty and we struggled to even go and feel safe having access to those stores? I was very grateful at the time to have my food pantry. And also, if you have been listening to the news recently, you know that, or have heard that our farmers, our American farmers, are having problems getting harvesters and harvesting their vegetables. And as a result, some of them are just plowing their plants and their produce back into the ground. And thus some people are predicting shortages in the not too distant future. That should compel us all to think and to, I believe, have a vegetable garden and preserve or can the produce from it. Now, a second reason for canning is the assurance that what you have preserved is very, very healthy. In these jars, there are absolutely no preservatives, no insecticides, no antibiotics, no hormones, no additives, no chemicals, just delicious, healthy, organic food that you grow in your garden until it is fully ripe. And that brings me to my third reason or motivation for canning my vegetables. I want my tomatoes for my sauce, my special sauce, to be fully ripe. If I buy tomatoes from the store, I know that most of those tomatoes are either grown hydroponically, which I think tastes like cardboard, or they are picked green, and in the process of shipping them to market, they are gassed with ethylene and prematurely turn red, which makes them look beautiful, ripe, very marketable, but they're not ripe. They're unripe on the inside. They are sour. Consequently, most kids today do not like tomatoes because they have never had a tomato, a good, fully ripe, sweet, red tomato. If you raise your own tomatoes or buy them from a farmer's market, then you can be assured that when they turn red, they are fully ripe. So I like determining the quality of my sauce by growing my own tomatoes as well as the other ingredients for my special sauce. I grow all but 2 of the ingredients. Now, another reason for canning may be tradition. As Tevier sings that great song in Fiddler on the Roof entitled Tradition. My mother lived through World War II with my dad, who served in the Pacific Theater. And while Dad was away, Mom told me she grew a victory garden. And when I was growing up, because I'm a war baby, a boomer, I noted that Mom canned a lot of what she grew in her victory garden as I lived at home during the 50s and early 60s. And Mom had lined the shelves that Dad had built along the stairway down into the basement. They were filled with great produce from the garden. Stewed tomatoes, tomato sauce, spaghetti sauce, and so I guess I'm keeping up a tradition. But I knew that we always had growing up a lot of food accessible to us if ever there was an emergency. We were not going to starve. Now, another reason for canning is a sense of stewardship. My parents taught me, waste not, want not. And behind me, you will see not only tomato sauce and spaghetti sauce, but also tomato juice, which makes some of the very best gazpacho soup. But you will also see behind me a lot of apple sauce, pear butter, and pear preserves. When we moved here back about 14 years ago, my wife and I discovered an apple tree and a pear tree. The pear tree was a kefir pear, which makes some of the most delicious pear butter and pear preserves. And I did not want it all to go to waste or to the birds and to the fox who also eat it here in Midland, but I wanted to cash in on this great deal that was right here on my property. And so every year I can approximately 200 pints of pear butter that I refer to as my currency of appreciation. Whenever somebody does something nice for me or kind to me, I will give to them some of this currency of appreciation, usually with a proviso that if they return the jar to me, then they will get a second helping. Well, consequently, I get most of my jars back and they get second helpings. But regarding tomatoes, at the end of the growing season every year, which is usually early November, I pick all my tomatoes before that killer frost, and I bring them into the house. I put them on flat cardboard boxes and store them in my garage, and I let them naturally ripen in my garage in the dark. And usually it's about 200 to 300 tomatoes, and so that will be a second big time of canning, because within those first 2 or 3 weeks, about half of those 200 to 300 tomatoes will ripen, making another great opportunity to can a bunch of jars of spaghetti sauce. A sixth reason to can is having a quick meal, an easy meal on hand. Tomato sauce, spaghetti sauce correctly canned is good for about 4 years, but in 5 minutes, the time it takes to boil thin pasta, I can have the sauce cooked, and in 5 minutes the meal is ready. What a deal. And speaking of deals, a seventh reason to can is to save a good bit of money. Usually most of your garden tomatoes are harvested in a short period of time, seemingly all at once. I want to enjoy spaghetti sauce, pizza, manicotti, and other Italian dinners throughout the year. Canning allows me to enjoy garden-grown tomatoes in December as well as now when they're overflowing. I currently have over 300 tomatoes on the kitchen shelf right in the other room there, and they need to be turned into my special sauce so that it will be available to me year-round at a great price. So I figure I have a lot of value behind me here in my food pantry. So those are the reasons, the 7 reasons for canning. Convenience, assurance that it's very, very healthy, it's fully ripe, tradition, stewardship, quick and easy meals on hand, and saving money. Now, before we go outside to my spaghetti garden, I want to share that there will be 2 times for Q&A, for questions and answers during this presentation. The first immediately after my garden presentation, which takes place next, and then immediately after my kitchen canning presentation. So if you think of a question, write it down, and after those times, call it in, and I will try to answer all questions. And if I don't have the answer, I may know where the answer can be found. Okay, let's go outside.